Jormungandr has been released on the China beta test server. This is the Chronomancer's hero class that procs skills similar to the bolter style of Chronomancer. I'll analyze these skills and show it in action. I'll discuss the weapon and its requirements to craft it, and also what gear it can wear. Finally, I'll give my thoughts on this class. Stay tuned to find out more exciting details about this new class. Thanks to the many people in the unofficial ROM Discord server for helping out with this class. In particular, I want to thank Bacon for the translations. I made some minor edits and added a few things, but a vast majority of it is from Bacon, and I appreciate the help to the community by providing fast translations on day one. Also, a thank you to Alex for doing some PvP tests with me so I could see this in action in the arena. First, let's take a look at the weapon. The weapon is Bloodscale Grimoire. It provides a whole mix of things. In particular, it focuses on defense and max HP, which is a bit unintuitive considering that this is supposed to be a DPS class. When we first got this weapon leaked, a lot of people weren't sure whether this could actually do any damage or whether it was pure support. The Tier 4 and Tier 5 effects are also very defensive. For the base weapon, these are the materials you'll need. You can craft it in Loyang, and the materials also drop from those maps. For synthesis, you'll need the Tier 8 of this book, then Tier 4 Gentleman's Staff, and the Advanced Survival Staff. Next, what gear can Jormungandr use? Here's the synthesis stove so you can see what can actually be equipped. Unfortunately, Unlimited cannot be used, which is really bad since that would have been perfect for this class. You can, however, use some Sage books. A lot of people in the community have tested this out, and they do recommend Wizard's Power, which provides the most damage. Next is this class's style. The pre-made version shows that it is a DPS class because the gear is more towards dealing damage than it is for support. In the past, there were some classes that would be more support heavy, so you'd end up getting HP or damage reduction gear as recommendations. Next, let's look at the skills. First is the core hero skill, Space-Time Folding. Jormungandr can set 2 attacks or buff skills into the Superimposition. Upon auto attack, it has a 12% at level 1 or a 60% at level 7 chance to trigger Superimposition damaging skills. You also have a 3% at level 1 or a 15% at level 7 chance to cast a buffing skill. Bacon had put in the range so you know how much each level makes in terms of a difference. At level 4, every skill in the Superimposition set, attack and casting range will be increased by 1 meter. This gives you some great range. At level 7, Superimposition setup gives you +1 skill or buff. This basically gives you an extra slot. So if you take a look at what skills can actually go into Superimposition, you can see that you can have Time-Space Barrier, Destiny Plunder, Frenzy Disaster, Invasion, Abyssal Spear, and Time-Space Imprisonment. If you don't have level 7 core hero skill, I would not recommend playing this class since you'll be losing a ton of damage, since you really do need 3 Superimposition skills to be able to do a lot of damage. Also, your chance to trigger depends heavily on your core hero skill, and at max level it is 60%. Now, if you need BCC to get the second line runes for your hero class, then try Smile.1. Smile.1 allows you to get discounted BCC and premiums for Ragnarok Mobile. They've been around for more than 8 years and have lots of global business partners for other games too. I'll put a link in the description. Thanks to Smile.1 for sponsoring this video. Next is the skill Time-Space Barrier. This casts a 4 meter time-space barrier where party members and self every second will gain magic immunity 3 times. This lasts 10 seconds. You also have the Time Barrier rune, which can grant you up to 30% melee and range physical damage reduction. This skill is fantastic for both PvE and PvP. Next is the skill Time-Space Imprisonment. This causes one enemy to be imprisoned in time-space, where the cooldown increases by 20%, attack speed reduced by 20%, lasts 8 seconds, and can stack 3 times. At 3 stacks, the enemy is unable to cast skills or auto attack. The rune will further decrease the enemy's final damage. This is a great PvP skill to disrupt people, but it's not very useful for PvE since you can't imprison bosses. Next is the skill Singularity Jump. Jormungandr jumps into a wormhole, up to 8 meters in range, 75% chance to cast Black Hole to enemies in the 3 meters surrounding to the jump. This lasts for 1 second. This is another PvP skill. Next is the passive Time-Space Returned. Every time Jormungandr receives damage, there's a 25% chance to return to the past and recover back damage times 100% HP. This is a really busted skill that provides lots of survivability. This is great for PvP and PvE. Next is the skill Snake Territory. You summon a snake territory below the player, and every second within the AoE, you'll recover up to 3% max HP. It increases self-abnormal resist attack by 30%, lasts 30 seconds and only one can exist. Summoned enemies within snake territory will be hit by Venom Etch. Also, within the AoE, every 3 triggers of Superimposition will obtain Snake Echo. This will increase final damage by 10%. Snake Echo lasts for 10 seconds and can stack at most 3 times. This is a great buff to cast before attacking. Snake Echo also benefits other skills, so you want to spam this as much as possible. The weird thing about inflicting Venom Etch on these summoned enemies is it doesn't seem to be working. You can see from the Baby Orc summons it doesn't petrify them at all. This could be a bug. Next is the skill World Snake. Jormungandr transforms into a snake, recovers all HP and increases max HP by 100%, and has 50% demi-human reduction. It causes all surrounding enemies to fall into the non-resist and non-immune fear status, which lasts for 1 second. Under Snake Transformation, it's able to use the Flame Breath and Venom Edge skills. Also, any area Jormungandr passes, enemy AoE effects will transform into Snake Territory and last for 4 seconds. The snake effect will last 15 seconds and cooldown is fixed and unable to be reduced. Transforming into a snake is great because it gives you buffs and also debuffs enemies. It allows you to use 2 new skills, and this is great in PvP since it can destroy enemy AoE effects on the ground. You can see here that Alex Mars gets rid of my chronal fields, which is super annoying. Also, it removes my Dorm's Tornado Storm. For the 2 new skills you get, once I become a snake, I can use Venom Etch to petrify things. I can also use Flame Breath to roast these orcs. Next is the skill Flame Breath. Jormungandr targets one enemy and spreads a 2-meter AoE to enemies, dealing magic attack times 3000% fire elemental magic damage. Every stack of Snake Echo can spit out another enemy. If there's only one enemy in the AoE, every Snake Echo increases by 50% damage. Flame Breath can trigger Superimposition. This is a great skill since it has a very high multiplier and partial AoE to enemies around. It is affected by Snake Echo attacks, so it's good to have this in Snake Territory. Unfortunately, I don't like that this is only active when you transform into a snake. Here you can see I roast 2 orcs with this skill. Next is the skill Venom Etch. Snake bites one enemy, falls into non-resist and non-immune petrify status, it cannot break, lasts 5 seconds, and effect cannot be dispelled. This is a great PvP skill to petrify people, which is truly annoying. Here Alex Mars is petrifying my poor Dorum and I am stuck here and unable to cast any skills. Next is the skill Frenzy Disaster. Jormungandr causes disaster, all skills can crit, dealing 200% crit damage, lasts 8 seconds or 6 skill attacks. The Star Rune will give you a higher trigger chance up to 15%. This is very nice to have built-in critical damage, but unfortunately it's capped at 6 skill attacks, which isn't ideal. But if this procs from Superimposition, then it's great. You also want a good rune with close to max percentage on this one. For example, here I have no spell crit gear equipped. For Superimposition, I just put in Invasion. Invasion hits for 10.2 million damage. After I cast Frenzy Disaster manually, it crits for 20.5 million. You always want to put Frenzy Disaster into your superimposition slot to proc it. Next is the skill Invasion. It sends one Quicksand Storm to one direction, dealing magic attack times 2400% Earth Elemental damage to 3 times 10 meters AoE. Is not affected by level 1 Earth Elemental armor. The rune also gives you a chance to cast Petrify up to 50% and lasts for 5 seconds. This is one of your primary DPS skills that you put into your superimposition slot. It also has a chance to petrify enemies based on your rune percentage. Although you're stuck to Earth Elemental, it has the interesting property to ignore armors being Earth. It will do the same damage, and I had loosely translated that last part about elemental armor. Let's see this in action. Here I set the dummy to be neutral. I hit for 10.2 million damage. I now switch it to Earth, which should do less damage. I still hit it for 10.2 million damage. Now if I change the wind, I show that it does do extra damage against it as I do 17.5 million damage. Basically, this skill protects you against people using Earth armor to greatly reduce the damage, which is an interesting thing to do with this skill. Next is the skill Abyssal Spear. It sets one area and causes the stone to become a spear, dealing magic attack times 1000% Earth Elemental magic damage to enemies within 3 meters of the AoE. Is able to remove enemies hiding and 100% chance to cause bleeding status. Is not affected by level 1 Earth Elemental armor. The rune can boost the Abyssal Spear damage by up to 50%. This is the other DPS skill that you need to put into your superimposition slot. It is great that you can remove enemies from hiding, so it's ideal for PvP. For PvE, the damage is unfortunately lower, so it's not the best. Here I put Abyssal Spear into my superimposition slot as the only skill. Then I show it proccing. Next is the passive Snake Tumor. When Jormungandr deals skill damage, will additionally deal self magic attack times 1000% poison elemental magic damage. This damage will reduce the target movement speed by 20% and 30% movement speed limit. It lasts for 5 seconds and stacks up to 3 times. This is a great skill for adding extra poison damage to your attacks, and for PvP, the decreased movement speed is also great for annoying people. Next is the skill Destiny Plunder. Use on one enemy, causing dispellable buffs that were used within 7 seconds to transfer to Jormungandr, also steals 30% magic penetration. Stolen magic penetration effect cannot stack. The Star Rune has the 20% to 100% chance to obtain one shield. The shield is able to block one negative effect, lasts 10 seconds and can stack. This is a great PvP skill since you can steal a dispellable buff and also steal magic penetration. This is going to be really annoying for PvP, so this is a good skill. Next is the passive Ouroboros. Every Snake Echo will increase Jormungandr's Earth Fire Elemental attack and ignore magic defense by 10%. Snake Echo duration increases by 30 seconds. This is a nice passive since getting more damage and ignore magic defense is always good. Next, I'll give my thoughts on this class while battling the Legend Golem. I'll go in depth into the PvE build in a future video. For now, here's my skills. In my superimposition, I have all these skills. I just have auto attack in my auto attack bar. Here's the gear that I'll be using. It's mostly magic crit gear. I'm also using the Magic Oath for Oracle Mirror and Lord of Vane for the Relic. Your attacks are primarily earth and poison, and you can temporarily do fire. Being locked to an elemental type isn't ideal. Taekwon has a similar playstyle, but you can convert to any elemental type. Of course, Taekwon is melee and Jormungandr has a really long range at core passive level 4, so you don't have to get as close to your target. With the exception of Soulbinders being able to convert to whatever type they want, I've never been a huge fan of magic classes that are stuck to a certain type. I find physical classes where they can convert using elemental types or skills to be much more unfair. Next, I don't like that the chance to proc skills is limited to 3 slots, and it's down to 2 if you're not at max level core hero skill. Compared to Taekwon, where you can add more than 3 skills without any rune requirements, it just feels bad to be limited that way. Next, I think this class is great for PvP, but not so much for PvE. There's definitely lots of skills that are just for PvP only and doesn't really benefit PvE instances. Also, the unfair skills can't be used in certain instances, which sucks as well. Next, for PvP, I really like the petrifying effects and the AoE field disruption, since that will really annoy people, especially chronomancers. I also like that the auto attack range is very far, which can keep you out of danger. How do you like Jormungandr? Let me know in the comments section. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. Here's a video that I would recommend, and if you like sneak peeks, check out this playlist over here.